Good morning, everyone. We'll get started now. There's a lot of people in this class. I'm going to actually put myself back off the video because we're going to concentrate on the matrix screens today. I'm going to ask as we get started to, if you have any questions, to stick them in the chat as we go along, and I'll keep picking up the questions as we go along since there are a lot of people and it'll be hard to answer questions one by one. And we'll make sure we get everything covered before the end of the session. Okay, so we'll get started. Everyone can hear me, right? Correct? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to turn my video off now and we'll get started. Okay, so good morning. This class is called Mastering the Client Communications. So what this class is about is the way to have Matrix work well for you. You can have the system sending out your emails automatically, so you're not responsible every single day going into the system, searching the stuff for your clients and emailing them directly. You can set things up so it does it automatically for you once you know the parameters of what your client is looking for. And we'll show you how to do that. A lot of people, excuse me, already know how to do an auto email, which is you set it up and it automatically sends an email out every day. But there is a second component in the system that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's called the concierge side of the auto email, and we'll talk about that today, and you'll be able to learn how to use that to your advantage. And it'll actually give you a leg up from what other people know how to do. It'll actually show you, it's like a secret weapon for you. So we'll get started. To do the client portals, anytime you start, you can start with a search or you can start with the client itself. We're going to start with a search directly, and I'm going to start up with a brand new client. Like I'm going to pretend like I didn't have this client before and I'm setting up brand new, so you can understand the components that we're setting up each time. And I will be doing several different types of searches to kind of reinforce how you do this and how you set this up. So we'll go through it several different ways, several different times to kind of help get you all set up. So I am in Matrix. So we went from the dashboard to the SWFLA MLS tile, and I'm in Matrix. So I'm going to start with a search. And I'm going to stick on the residential side of things right now because residential, whether you do it residential or if you're doing income properties, rental properties, lot and land, the auto email sets up exactly the same. The only difference between all the different property types is what you're picking from the criteria. But to set the client up, it stays exactly the same on each. So for the sake of keeping it simple, I'm going to stay in the residential side, but you can use the auto email across any of the different property types. So we're going to go to residential, and we're going to start with a basic search. And we're going to assume I have a client who's looking for active homes. A little tip, if you can sit down with the client or over the phone, go through with them what they're looking for. Get as much detail as you possibly can, because the more details you get about what they're looking for, you can narrow their search. Some clients, you're not going to be able to pin them down. They're going to be very broad and general. And what's going to happen is when you set that email up to go out, you may be sending a lot of properties to them, and then they find out that they get too many properties, and then they're overwhelmed. So if you can pare it down initially when you're talking to them, that makes things a little bit easier. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to say I have a client who's looking for single family homes. We're going to start with that category first. So I'm going to check off single family homes. Next thing I want to do is what price range they're looking for, because that will help narrow our focus down as well. So I'm going to say in a price range, let's say, I'm going to say 500 to 600 to keep it small. I could expand it if I want. And you'll see as I'm building my search, I have active single family and just a price range. Right down here at the bottom, you can see there's 1,172 properties. If I were to set this up right now, they would get 1,172 properties. That's a lot of properties. So I'm going to narrow it down some more. I can do it by city. So I could narrow it down by Naples, let's say, or I could do it by a specific zip code if my client was looking in a particular area. I could do it by development. if they're looking for a specific development. You also have the geo areas down here for people who are familiar with using the geo areas. You could check off all of Naples areas or Bonita, Estero, wherever you're looking. For this particular search, I'm just going to keep it in the development name right now. And I'm going to do Pelican Bay. We'll just choose Pelican Bay. So I've limited down to, oh, what do you think's going on here? I have 0. So either my price range is too low or the single family may not fit the category, right? So I can see that right off the bat before I even send anything to the client. So let me do this. Let me change my price range to 700 plus. We'll leave it at that and let's see how many we get. Okay, we have 21 right now. See, brought back some numbers. And that gives you the flexibility while you're setting this up. Before you send anything to your client, you can kind of see where you're standing with them. Bedroom, let's say they said 3 bedrooms or more. So I'm going to check off 3 and I have to hold on a regular PC, you're going to hold down the control key. On an Apple computer, it's the command key, and that'll allow you to pick multiples. See if I'm picking 3 bedrooms with a den, 4 bedrooms with a den, and I'll just do 5 and then all 6. I do the whole group like this because if I just check 3 bedrooms, it's only going to look specifically for properties that have only 3 bedrooms, and you'll miss out on the ones that have 3 bedrooms and a den, and you'll miss out on the ones that are 4 bedrooms that might be in that price range that you're looking for. So it's always a good idea to check them all off when you're looking for something like that, unless they're very specific, which they probably aren't. So that brought us still down to 21. So let's look at a couple other things they may be looking for. Maybe they want 2+ baths. So we're going to put 2+ baths there. Still have 21 left. We're still sitting at 21. A couple other things that you want to look at that are like price point related would be a pool. If they want a pool or they don't want a pool. Usually buyers are very particular. They want the pool because they want the convenience. They don't want the pool. They don't want the maintenance. So ask that question. And we're going to say in this case, they want a private pool. We're talking private pool, meaning it's part of the house, not a private pool in a community. That would be an amenity with a community pool. Still hasn't changed much. Let's say they want 2+ garage spaces. And we're still sitting at 21. Well, another thing we can narrow it down by living area. Let's say they want 2,500 square feet or more. Okay, that brought us down. Okay, well, let's make it a little bit higher. Let's see what happens. 3,000 square feet or more. That brought us down to 15. We'll kind of sit there right now at 15. We'll start with this particular search to get us going. So I'll just review real quick what I checked off. I checked off active. I've checked off single family in Pelican Bay in the 700 plus price range, 3 bedrooms or more, 2 full baths or more, 3,000 square feet or more, 2-car garage or more, and a private pool. And that sits us at 15. So once I have my search set up, and we're going to do multiple searches so you'll get the hang of this, I'm just going to click on the results screen right here. And that brings us over to the 15 properties. Now here, this is the point where some people, when they're setting these all up, get a little confused. They start looking at the different properties and they start checking off, maybe they've checked off 3, and they go and set up the auto email and they think that the buyer is only going to get 3 properties. When you're setting up auto email, you have to remember auto email means it's automatic. They're going to get everything. So even if you only check 3 out of the 15 off, they're getting all 15 properties. Whatever you see on your screen here, that's what they're going to receive. So I'm going to uncheck these. It doesn't matter. So don't take the time and hand pick these because that's not going to work. When we go into the concierge side, and I show you that a little bit later, that's when you can hand pick certain properties that only go out to the client or the ones that you pick. We'll go through that later. But this is auto email means everything goes. So what it's going to do is it'll send all 15 of these to the client today. And then tomorrow morning, it'll run your search again based on those parameters that I set before. And if something new comes on the market, or one of these has a price or status change that's already in there, it'll notify your client. If it does a search in the morning and nothing's changed, there's no new listings, there's no price changes or status changes, the client doesn't get an email. So it does all that ahead of time for you. So it makes it a little bit easier, saves you the time of having to go in the system. So we're sitting here at the results screen. We're going to go down here. You'll see actions. We have all these different things on the toolbar. We're going to click over here to save. So we have to move from actions over here to save. And that's where we see this option here. It says new auto email. You do see an option for new save search. Now let me just give you a little pointer about new save search. You don't want to use that. We're sticking with new auto emails because save search only saves that criteria that we set up, and it doesn't actually send anything to the client. Okay, so save search only saving your criteria. So we don't want to get confused here. We're just going to go to new auto email. That's what we're using. So new auto email brings us to where we're going to actually set up the client. And remember I said this is a brand new client. I haven't used this client before. So we're going to go in here and we're going to say create a new client. Now, if I had an existing client, I can pick them down here. We'll do an existing one later, but we're going to create a whole new contact. So the only thing you need when you set up a brand spanking new client is their first name, their last name, and an email address. Those three things. You can put, there's tons more information that you can gather in here. You see there's all these fields you can put that information in. You can choose not to. That's up to you. The only three pieces are the first name, last name, and the email address. So we're going to say Mary Jane, and then we're going to say Klein. Just making up a name as we go along. I didn't spell Klein right. Let's go back over here, back it out. I want to make sure we spell their name right. And I'm going to put an email address in here. I have an email address already set up. Let me just double check what it is over here. We have so many email addresses, I can't keep track. Oh, my little screen here is getting in the way. Here we go. Okay, so it's neighbors. Nope, it is neighbor MLS training. Okay, there we go. We'll come back to this in a minute. Let me go back over to Matrix. Here's my screen. So it's neighbor MLS training at gmail.com. Okay, so I have that email set up. I'm going to take out my other account here that it automatically put in on there for me. So I have the first name, the last name, and the email address. Now let's talk about what if it's two clients together, a husband and wife or partners or two people who are buying the same property, and you want to email them together. You want them to both get the same information, but they have two different emails. What you don't want to do is set them up as two separate clients in here, two separate contacts. Because if you do that, every time you have to do an update or make changes or anything, you then have to update both of them. What you can do is set them up as one. Let's just say it's Mary Jane and Mike. I can just put two first names in here, Mary Jane and Mike, and then I can put, if they had two separate last names, just put space and then their last name. Let's just say it was Smith and leave it like that. And then I can just put comma and then the second email address. And that will allow it to go to both emails at the same time. Now you can see when we get down into the salutation, it gets a little messy, so to speak. Oh, and look, I didn't spell Mary's name right. Let me just fix that there. What you can do is change the salutation to just hello, Mary and Mike, or hello, Mary, Jane, and Mike, like that. You can simply pick it down like that. That way you're combining both of them into one, and that way they both get the exact same emails to their separate email accounts, and that way if you have to make any changes, you only have to change it one time. Makes things a lot easier. Okay, so let me just move my toolbar down here. I have this all set up. I just have to simply hit the save button right here. You see it down here in the toolbar, and that will save the contact. and it dropped it right over here in my contact box. Okay, so we're all set to go there. Now, when you're setting up a contact, you only need two pieces of information here. You just need the contact, which we have here, and you need to put a subject in. And I'm going to say Pelican Bay single family homes. So that's my subject matter there. And then you'll notice there's two tabs here, one that says a welcome email and one that says a reoccurring email. So the difference between the two tabs, the welcome email is the initial email that will go out to Mary Jane and Mike. Okay, so that just kind of gives them an introduction that you created this search and they're going to get a portal, and that's how they're going to view things. The second email, the second tab, sorry, is the reoccurring email. So this is after today, anytime the system is notifying them that a property has come, new property has come on into the portal, or a price change or status change has come through, it'll send this email out. So what I tell people is if you want to personalize the message a bit, I wouldn't worry too much about the welcome email, because the welcome email just goes to them one time. It's a very generic and just goes to them one time. If you want to personalize anything, click on the reoccurring tab and you can put your own message in there if you'd like. And it only updates for this one client. So if you change that message and you have another client later on you set up, it won't pull that same message. You would have to write the message again. So you can really personalize it to that client if you wish. Down here, it gives us the criteria: active, single family, Pelican Bay, the price range, and all that. We're going to get into the concierge later, so we're going to leave this the way it is. And then when I come down here, so it tells you daily, emails are sent to the days that you choose. And right now, everything's all automatically checked for AM. You could theoretically, if you wanted to, uncheck Tuesdays and Thursdays and let the emails go out those other days, or you can leave them all checked. It really doesn't matter. The difference is if you check off, uncheck Tuesdays and Thursdays. So let's say on Monday afternoon, so the emails go out in the AM, Monday afternoon, a new property comes on board into the MLS that matches all your criteria perfectly. Well, Tuesday, you have it set up that no emails go out to your client. So it won't send anything out to them on Tuesday. But on Wednesday morning, when it does the pull again, it will grab that listing that came on Monday afternoon and send it to them on Wednesday morning. So it's totally up to you whether you want to leave it at 7 days or uncheck some days. In a really hot market where things were going fast a few years ago, where things were flying out of the MLS before you knew it, you definitely would want to keep it at 7 days, because if you skipped a day, you would essentially miss an opportunity. It's not quite as bad as that, so you can leave it all 7 days, or you can handpick. Your client's not going to get an email every single day if you've narrowed your search down. They're only going to get an email when the properties come on market that match that criteria. If you did a very generic one where it was a zip code by single family by a price range, then they may get an email every day. But we narrowed it down by living square feet and all that. They're not going to get something every single day. So just to recap what we did, we put the contact in here. We created the new contact to drop the name in. Oh, while we're up here, I'm going to talk about the BCC. You can see here it automatically will BCC me a copy of the email, sends it to me. Now the system is smart enough to know that when it's doing this blind copy of an email to my Matrix email account, whatever account I have set up through the MLS, it knows that I'm an agent. And it's going to send me a different email than it's going to send my clients, because it knows that I'm an agent and it's going to send me an agent view of the properties, not what the client is seeing, just so you know that. So when you look at the agent view, you can see who the listing agent is, you can see all the contact, you can see the private remarks. The client won't see any of that. They're protected and they only see what's allowed to be seen on the client side. So you don't have to worry, you can't accidentally send them the wrong thing. So I prefer to leave the BCC there. Now you'll find as you're doing more and more and more customers, you might be overwhelmed with the blind copies in your email. You have every right. You can just turn that off, because I'll show you in the system where it does keep those emails that you can keep an eye on them. But we're going to leave that checked for now. So I have the the contact up here. I put the subject in. I'm leaving everything defaulting to what the system defaults to. I'm not making any changes here. I'm leaving everything alone. And I just hit save. And when I hit save, I'm done. It sent these 15 emails over to my client, and they'll get them within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Goes automatically. Then nothing will happen till tomorrow morning, and it'll look again and see if anything comes up. Okay, so that's how the basic search works. It's just an auto email. I'm going to start another, while we're waiting for that one to come through so I can show you what it looks like. I'm going to start a whole nother one so we can reinforce it and do it all over again. So I'm going to start fresh with a search. We're going to go through a residential search all over again. And let's pick up a few more, criteria than we did in the past so that we can kind of, than we did in the past one. So this time, let's do, how about if we do condos? I'll do low rise, high rise, and mid rise. My client wants to live in a condo. I'm going to throw a little puzzle into this one just so kind of to show you how you can sort things out. And let's say, we're just going to say the city of Naples. They want to live somewhere in Naples. They're not quite sure where they want to be yet. So we'll say the city of Naples. Well, you can see I have 2,888, way too many. Let me talk for a quick minute about list price versus current price. Those fields have both been in the system for years and years and years. I don't know, whenever it was set up way originally, somebody put both of those fields in there. They are essentially the same thing. If you put a price range in the list price field, and then if you took it out and put it in the current price field, you're going to get the exact same listings. It's not what I originally thought list price meant. This is the price it was listed at, but here's the price that it is now is the current price, but that's not how it works. So don't get hung up on which box to list, to use for the price. Pick either one and just continue to use it. I tend to use current price. That's just the way I do, but it doesn't matter if I put it here or here, I'm going to get the exact same listings. Eventually, one of these days, we're going to clean this up and one of them is going to go away. So let's say my client said, okay, they want to live in Naples and they want to spend between $800,000 and $1 million. Okay. We still have 178 properties. That's a whole lot of properties. We're going to say, let's say 3 bedrooms or more. We're not going to worry about swimming pool because they're not going to have a private pool in a condo unless they're up in a penthouse, and we're not going to worry about that. But let's do this. Let's say they want to live in a condo, but then they tell you, well, I want to live in a condo, but I want to be on the first floor, or I want the building to have an elevator. That's a very reasonable thing down here because not everybody likes the steps, right? So they want to live on the first floor or a building with an elevator. So first of all, when I look at those things, they're not up here in my top part of my search. They're not up here anywhere. So what you have to do is you have to come down here to additional fields. Yours may just say add. Mine says add remove because I have fields here already, but I'm going to say add. And then you're going to look over here on the left-hand side, scroll down, we're going to go to elevator. You're going to find elevator and you're going to hit add. And when I hit add, it's going to move it from the left to the right. Mine's telling me I already added it because I added it once before. And then I want to do for the unit floor. Okay, so unit floor is going to be 1. So we can go all the way down to the U's. And there's unit floor. And say add. Now they should be in my list over here. You can see I have a lot of things in my list. I really need to go in and clean it up. I have unit floor here. I'm going to actually move unit floor down a bit so I can find it quicker when we go back to the first screen. Okay, there's unit floor, and I probably have elevator up here near the top. Oh, there it is, right up top here. And I'm going to move that down as well, just so that's easier for me to find when we go back to the other screen. Come on, move on down. So anytime you pick anything on the left-hand side under available fields and you move them to the right-hand side, they'll show up here in your selected fields. Once you have that set, we're going to hit the back button. There's no save, it's a back button. The back button saves it. That will automatically put them down here at the bottom of your screen for you. Once you set this up, next time you come in, it'll automatically be there. So it's a good idea to kind of think about some of the additional fields, and we'll go through some more fields that we'll add in as we go along, things like pets, things like amenities when you're looking in communities, different things like that, HOA fees. We'll go through all that as a couple of other searches. But as you add those fields down here, they'll stay here. So next time you go to search, they'll be there. It makes it a lot easier if you pre-plan them. So here we have elevators. So my client said they want an elevator in the building, right? So we say common, private, or secure. So any of those three, but they also want to be on the first floor. So just by the elevator, I have 48 matches. Okay. Now watch what happens when I put the first floor here. I have 4. And if we look at these 4 properties, what's going to happen is going to be those properties are going to be on the first floor and the building has an elevator. That's how it's reading this. When it's looking at all these different fields here, it says you want this and you want this and you want this and you want this. So it says you want this and you want an elevator and you want it to be on the first floor. That's how the system interpreted what we checked off. But that's not what my client is saying. My client says I want an elevator or on the first floor. So in this particular case, we have to actually separate it out and do 2 separate searches. So my first search is going to be on elevators. So they want a condo that has elevators. So now we have 48. Maybe I want to just bring it down a little bit more. I'll put, say, 2,500 square feet or more. Let's see if that narrows it down a bit. 22. And let's see if it has at least 1 plus garage space. That meant, nope, narrow it down too much at all. Okay. We're going to leave it at that anyway. So we're going to hit the results button here. So I have condos in Naples, $800 to $1 million, 3 bedrooms or more, 2,500 square feet. Actually, let's just bump this up to 3,000 square feet, see if it drops us a bit. Oh, only 1. Okay, we'll keep it at 2,500 because I want to look for some more. Okay, so we have 22 there. And then I have only elevator checked off. I took out the unifloor. We'll do the unifloor next. We're going to hit the results button. And out of these 22, they're all going to go. I'm going to go over here. Remember, go move from action over here to save. And we're going to click on new auto email. And we're going to not create a new contact this time because I have some in here. I'm going to pick Tom Cruise. Let's choose Tom Cruise. It says I turned it off at one point, but we're turning it back on, so that's fine. I BCC'd myself. I have a welcome email. I'm leaving it on reoccurring, and I'm leaving everything set here. I do want to put here condos with elevators so that your client knows that they're going to get the ones with the elevators, okay? So once I set that up, I'm just going to hit save, and it sends those 22 to them. Okay, but now we have to do another search for Tom Cruise that looks for the properties that are on the first floor that might not necessarily have an elevator in the building, but they're on the first floor. So I can go back, and sometimes if I hit my back button at the top of the screen right up here, what happens sometimes it loses the criteria, and then you have to start checking everything all over again. And we checked a bunch of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply move back over here to my actions button, and you'll see right underneath actions, I have a criteria button. If I click the criteria button, all my criteria stayed here. See, I have condos in Naples, 800 to $1 million, 3 bedrooms, all of them stayed here, including my elevator. So now I don't have to recheck all those things. I can simply go down here and uncheck elevator by holding the control key down. It either makes it blue or it makes it not blue. And now I want to put in the one for the unit floor. So now I have 2 matches. So I have 22 on the initial search for buildings with elevators, and I have 2 more that are on the first floor. Okay, I'm going to hit the results again, and I'm going to hit the save button again, and the new auto email. Now remember, the first one I set up for Tom Cruise, I'm going to set it up again for Tom Cruise. So I can send multiple emails for different criteria to the same contact. I can send them 2, 3, 4, 5 emails if I wanted to. It doesn't matter. There is no limit. It all goes to them to that email address. And what's nice about it is when they get it, and you'll see when we get to the client side of things, they get it all in one portal. They're not looking at 5 different places for your email. Everything's all kept in one place. So we already sent them 22. It's going to add these 2, and we're going to say on this one, condos on the first. Fingers don't want to work right today. First floor. So these are the ones, the condos on the first floor, just to differentiate the 2 searches for myself. Everything else, I'm leaving exactly how it's set up, and I'm going to hit save. So I set up 2 separate searches to Tom Cruise, and he's going to get both elevators and on the first floor, and can look at them all together in one search. So that's how you can combine 2 different things in one. And just so you know, I forgot to mention in the very beginning, we are recording this, and when the class is all over with and we clean up the video a bit, we will send the video out to your emails, since we have you all on the registration list, so we can do that. There's a lot to cover, and sometimes we have to speed it along. So I'm going to start a brand new search again. We're going to do residential, and this time we're going to do, let's stick with, let's say single family, and we're going to say it's in a community. But we're not going to name the community. We're going to do a couple of different things here. So let me put the price range. Let's have a little fun with this one. Let's say $1 million to $5 million. Okay, so we upped our price range quite a bit. Look at that, 2,359 in that price range. Mind you, I didn't put the city or zip code. I could have narrowed it down by that. They want, let's say, 4,500 square feet or more. That narrows it down a bit. And we want at least 4 bedrooms. So we'll do 4 bedrooms. And maybe they want a fairly newer home, okay? Let's say less than 5 years. So anything from 2021 till now. So I can do 2021 plus, and that brings it down to 32. Does that make sense? If they said 10 years, you could do 2016 plus. That gives us 42. But we'll leave it at 5 years. So we'll say 2021 or newer. So that's how we can do that. Let's just say private pool, yes. And we want maybe a 3-car garage or more. Now we're down to 27. Okay, so you see how we built that up by the square footage, the year built. So you can use different things here. Maybe let's see if they want waterfront. Let's see what happens. That brought us down to 13. And waterfront doesn't necessarily mean the beaches. It means there's waterfront associated with the house. It could be a pond. It could be a lake. It could be anything that's the back of the house or side of the house it fronts up to for the water. And that's what true waterfront means. The property line comes up to the water, not 2 blocks over and down the road. That's not waterfront. Or you can see it from the top view of the condo, but there's half a mile between the condo and the water. That's not a waterfront condo. Waterfront condo means you walk off the property and it's right there. So that's the difference there. Okay, so we have 13 set up. I'm going to hit results. Again, I'm going to hit save, and we're going to just do one more auto email this way, and then I'll get into the whole concierge side of things so you can kind of see how that one goes. And this time I'm going to pick Mary Jane Green, and we're going to say this is condo. No, these are single family homes. We'll just leave it at that. And we're going to leave the welcome email. We're going to leave all this the same, and we're going to leave it this way. Maybe this one I'll just uncheck Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just for the sake of unchecking it, and we'll see what happens. Oh, let me explain before I move off of this screen. ASAP, I would not use ASAP unless you're sending it maybe to yourself. Sometimes people set up these auto emails because they, as the agent, are watching a community or an area and they want to know what's coming on the market or what's sold or what's going on. Then you may use ASAP because you're sending it to yourself. I wouldn't use ASAP for a client because here's what happens. If an agent puts a listing in, say at 2 in the morning, and it happens to match the criteria you have set up for the client's going to get the email at 2 in the morning. Okay. As opposed to the AM when it sends it out at like 7 or 8 in the morning, which is more reasonable than 2 AM. And also ASAP means if it happens to pick up a lot of things and say an agent, people enter listings at different times of the day and say there's 3 different properties that match at 3 different times a day, they're going to get 3 emails in one day. So that's why ASAP, I would only reserve like if you're using it for yourself. Daily is the normal. Monthly, I would say now might be a good time to set up somebody monthly. If they say they were leaving to go back up north and they haven't bought anything and they're not sure what they want to do and they're still on the fence and they're not a serious buyer, that type of scenario, then maybe you want to set them up on a monthly email, just kind of a broad category type of requirements, and just set that up. And that way they'll get an email from you once a month and kind of keep you in the loop with them, kind of keep your name with them. Does that kind of make sense? Like you're just going to just send it to, you're kind of like, there was a word for it, farming. You're kind of farming them or just kind of keeping in touch. That's when I would use a monthly email, not for a serious buyer. Serious buyer, I would leave them set up with the daily email. We're going to hit save, and then off that email goes to my client, and I'm done. So I'm going to check real quick in the chat before we move over into the concierge side of things to see if anybody has any particular, somebody asked, can you specify seasonal rental specific months? Okay, so rentals, I will say rentals are challenging in our MLS. Mostly because we have short-term and long-term, and some properties may be listed for long-term and short-term, depending on the time of the year. We are trying to look at rentals a little bit differently and see if we can improve it a bit. Availability gets tricky. If you have a client that's like looking only for, say, next February, in February 2027, and you check off availability for February, then you start calling, you find out that people only want to rent it January, February, March to the same person. So we're still trying to struggle with that. So rentals get a little tricky. I would suggest initially, if you're new to rentals or you're just trying to figure this all out and you're setting up a client, I would set up in a concierge mode, and I'll show you how to do the concierge mode to send the listings to yourself so that you can preview them before you send it on to your client, so that you're not sending them a bunch of stuff that doesn't meet what they want. It gives you a little bit more leeway of looking through the stuff before it goes to them. So rentals do get tricky. I will say that. Okay. So we're going to go on now, and I'm going to start with a whole brand new search, and we're going to talk about the concierge side of things, the concierge mode. So to set up a search for concierge, it works exactly like what we just did for those 3 emails for the auto email. The steps are the same. We do the search, we go to save, we go to new auto email. The difference is one little checkbox, but it's a significant difference on how the client gets it. When you set up a search in an auto email for concierge, what that does is, rather than in an auto email, the results are going directly to the client. Okay, you're getting a copy yourself, but they're going directly to the client. Concierge, what it does is it sends you the email telling you, oh, look, here's some new listings have come on that meet that client's criteria. And you have the opportunity to look through, say there's 5 listings, but there's only 2 that you know your client would really love. And the other ones, you don't want to send it to them. You would check off those 2, and off those 2 go to your client. They don't get all 5 of them. They would only get the ones that you select for them. Up until you select them, they don't get anything. So you have total control over what you're sending to a client versus auto email, you have no control. It just goes out automatically. There's different times that you want to use the auto email versus the concierge. I would say concierge is great for if it's a VIP client, somebody that's looking for a high-end properties that you really want to preview and look through the listings before you send them on to them. That's a great one. Somebody who's looking for like in a condo or a community and they have a large pet, because pets are hard to figure out whether or not a pet is allowed or not allowed, and if there's weight limits and those type of things. So you might want to preview those listings before you send it. Like I said, rentals, short-term rentals, you may want to preview that stuff before you send it to them. Other than that, I would set everybody else up on a regular auto email. So you don't, because the concierge does take more of your time, where the auto email does not. Another example for concierge might be somebody, if you're sending emails to a client and you know if you send them 10 listings, they're going to call you immediately and be on the phone for 2 hours going over each and every property that you sent them. Maybe then you want to just parcel them out 1 or 2 at a time instead of sending them all 10 at one time. That's another example. But otherwise, I would set everybody up on auto email and just let the system do the work for you. It makes things a lot easier. So again, the setup is the same. We're going to start with active listings. Let's say single family. Let's say Naples. And I'm going to say this time, let's say my price range is 800 to 2.5 million. Let's say that. I'm going to do the bedrooms again. I'm going to do 4 bedrooms or more. I'm going to say 3 or more baths. And let's say 3,000 square feet or more. Let's see what we get. 218. Okay, so I'm going to throw another wrinkle in here. We're going to go to add remove, and we're going to add in amenities. So find amenities right there and hit add so it goes over to your box on the right. And then we're going to say this particular client wants to live in a community with certain amenities, but they also want to limit what they pay for the HOA fees. Okay, so we want to be able to sort out the high-end HOA fees from the lower-end HOA fees. I'm going to go all the way down to the very bottom, under to the T's, and we're going to look for this field. And most agents don't know about this field. It's called total annual reoccurring fees. Okay, so what total annual reoccurring fees does is it takes all the reoccurring the annual fees that a property owner has to pay every year. It takes them, like, here's an example. My dad lives in a community. He has 3 different fees. He has a master HOA fee. He has a like a clubhouse fee, and he has a small little subdivision fee. So he has 3. One's paid annually, one's paid quarterly, and one's paid monthly. 3 different ones. What the system will do will recognize that it has 3 different sets of fees, and it knows the different times that it has to be paid, and it'll do the math on the back end. So the agents aren't doing the math, the system's doing the math for us. And it'll take it, and let's say it'll add them all up and it'll come up with the monthly fee. So let's say the monthly fee is $500 a month. Okay, it then takes 500 times 12 because it's going to give you an annual number. So it would tell you it's $6,000 a month. So we're going to use this field called total annual recurring fees. You're going to hit it add there and make sure it goes over into your box. Hit the little back button and it'll drop it down here for me. And you'll see when we find it, it is a open field right here, total annual recurring fees. So let's say I had a conversation with my client and they want to live in a community, but they don't want the HOA fees to be more than, let's use that example, $500 a month. Okay. So in my head, I have to do 500 times 12 because remember, it's an annual number. So I'm going to say $6,000. But now I need to put the plus sign because if I leave it at $6,000, it's only going to pull the property that the HOA fees are exactly $6,000. Did I put 600? I want to put 6,000. There we go. So we need to put the plus after it. And now we'll see we have 90 properties that have HOA fee. Oh, I did more. See, look at that. Watch. We're going to do minus. I meant to hit minus because we want 6,000 or less annually. Let's see what that gets us now. That gets us 129 properties. So the HOA fees are a little bit less. That's because we have a high number up here. Let's talk about amenities. I have the amenity field here, I believe, somewhere. Here we go. Amenities. So let's say the client said, I want a community that has a pickleball court, a fitness center, and a community pool. We'll do those three things. So first we're going to go here to community pool. I'm going to check it off. Now here's the important part. You have to remember to hold the control key down when you're going further down and looking for something else. Well, we have exercise room. So we're going to say that. And keep holding the control key down. Fitness center attended. We want, or that would be fine. And we're going to keep going down to pickleball. So just double check to make sure all three stay blue, because if you forget to hit the control key down, when you go down to the next one, it'll uncheck the one previous. So just make sure all three are picked. Now you'll see you have these little radio buttons underneath, and or not. So we have community pool, we have fitness or exercise room, and we have pickleball. We want it checked or. They want, with what it's going to do with or is going to say it's going to look for those three things if it has. So this community may only have pickleball courts and no fitness center, no pool. This one might only have the pool and no pickleball courts or exercise room. But my client says they want all three. They're very specific. They want to live in a community that has all three things of these three things. So then what I need to do is move my little radio button over here to and. So now it's going to look for properties that have a pickleball court, a fitness center, an exercise room, and a community pool. Maybe I want to just pick exercise room and not the fitness, because that might limit us some there. Let's see what we have now. So 15 properties have all three of those amenities and have the HOA fees under $500 a month. So that's a good thing. See that? We figured that all out. So now you can send this on to your client. We're going to hit results. And this one we're going to set up a little different. We'll set it up in the concierge mode. So we're going to do the same thing, save, and the new auto email right here. And we'll pick one of my clients here. We'll just pick Abraham Lincoln. And we're going to say homes with amenities. Anything you want. It doesn't really matter. Nobody else can see this but you and your client. And I spelled amenities wrong. There we go. Now, this is the one I want to be able to look through those 15 properties before I send it to my client. I didn't look on the previous screen when it showed me the 15. I just came right to my save button into the auto email. Here's where I'm going to say enable concierge mode. Now watch. See when I don't have that button checked, see how the calendar right down here shows? When I check enable concierge, see how the calendar went away. That's how you can know you're in which one you're in. If you're trying to just set up a regular auto email, always look for the calendar down at the bottom here. If you're trying to set up a concierge mode one, just make sure the calendar's not there. That'll tell you the difference. So enable concierge, you want it to send you an alert notification by email. So what it'll do is it'll alert you, not the client, it'll alert you when something matches the criteria tomorrow or the next day. And then we're just going to hit save and go to approvals. That's the other difference. Look, when I turn this off, we only have a save button down here. When I hit enable concierge, it changes to save and go to approvals. So I'm going to click that. And now we have the 15 listings. Now this is a screen that I want to look through the listings and pick which ones I want to send off to my client. So I can go right up here, check this off, and just take a quick look through it. Maybe I want to look through the pictures. I can take a spin through the pictures. I can just check everything out. This looks like a nice property. I'm going to check the box off next to the address up here at the top. I like that property. And then up here, you'll have next, and you can go scroll through these 15 properties. I'm not going to send them that one. That's not their style. I'm not going to send that one. Click the next one. I'm going to click this one. I'm going to say yes. Next. And you can just go through all 15 of them one at a time. I'm just going to randomly click some off now. Next. And you can see here, I've checked off 3. As I go through, we'll just kind of go through the rest of them really quickly. I'll check this one. And again, you can take your time and look at them. Okay, so I've checked off 6. We'll leave it at 6. I'll get out of the 14, 15. Okay, we're at the last one. Once I've checked off the ones that I want, so I only want these 6 listings in particular to go to my client. So you'll see down here at the bottom in the toolbar, we have rejected or approved. So here's the thing. The first couple times you do this, I say do it always the same way. I always approve the ones I like first. Always approve them. Because in the past when I've done this myself, I'd be like, oh, did I want to send those or did I not want to send those? And I get confused for a minute. So always to go through them and click off the ones you like first. Set those up first. Once you do that, you just hit approve selected. And those 6 of them went off to my client. See, approved 6 listings sent to Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Now that leaves us 9 sitting here. You can leave them sitting here in this bucket. It can just kind of stay there by itself. However, I've done this myself. And when I've come back in, say 3 days from now, the system found 2 more listings that meet the criteria. What I found is when I come back in, I have those 9 existing listings there that I already looked through once. And now the 2 new ones are mixed in with the 9. And now I have to go through 11 of them instead of just looking at the 2. So the best advice I could give you is check them all off. Right up here, you can say check all. And you'll see it put the check mark on them. And then go down here and hit the reject button. By doing that, that clears out, I call it a bucket. That clears out the bucket, so to speak, for that client. That means nothing is sitting in there. So tomorrow or the next day, if some new listings come in, you only have to deal with the new listings. Trust me, you'll probably make that mistake and forget to reject them. And the next time you come in and you see 10 of them sitting there, you'll be like, oh, now I know to hit the reject button. So I'm going to hit reject. And now essentially everything's gone. 6 went to the client, the rest went in the reject button. Now here's what's nice about the reject button. Even though I rejected all these properties, if say a week from now, there's a price reduction on one of these ones that I rejected initially, it will pull it back and notify me that there's been a price reduction. So I have the opportunity to look at it again and say, oh, well, now the price is better. Maybe I want to send this off to my client. So even though you reject it, it's still kind of sitting there in the background in case anything happens to it, to give you a second opportunity to look at it. So you don't have to worry about that. So it always comes back that way if there's any kind of change in the property. Okay, I'm going to do another one for the concierge mode again, just to kind of reiterate how to go through it. This one we're going to say single family, low rise or high rise, any of those 3. And let's say where is my total annual? And the reoccurring fees, I don't want it to be more than, let's say, $400 a month this time. So that's $4,800. Okay, we want $4,800 or less. And we want some amenities. We want, let's just say, a clubhouse and maybe a community pool. And I didn't specify where. Let's say, this time we'll go into Bonita Springs, just to break things up a bit here. And let's say, this time we're going to say 500 to 750. Well, we could probably make it 500 to 600. Let's do that and see what we get. 16. Okay, I'm going to narrow it down by just that, and that'll be fine. We're going to hit results. Again, we're going to move from active over to save. And we're going to go to new auto email. I can create a new contact, or I can pick one of my existing ones. Let's say I have more down here. Let's go down to my whole list. Let's say Sue and Frank Moore. Okay, and I'm going to say homes in Bonita Springs. And I'm going to check off enable concierge and then save and go to approvals. So again, I don't do anything with the listings until I get to this screen, and you can see I have 16 listings to look through. I can look at the pictures if I'm only concerned about the pictures. I can look at each individual one and go through them that way. I'm gonna skip that one, go on to the next one, and you can go up and down the listing, look at different things. You can look at the photos and then decide if you want to send it on. I'm going to just check off a couple. Here we go. There's no rhyme or reason, but normally you would have a reason why you're checking them or unchecking them. It is helpful, especially, okay, if you have somebody that's looking for, let's say a condo, and you find out that, or even a single family home, they want to live in a community, they want certain amenities and all that. And then you find out they have a pet. Okay, well, that's a challenge. If it's a small pet, it's usually not that much of a problem. But if it's a larger pet, some HOA communities have restrictions on size, weight, breeds, and so then you may have to sift through. So in that case, you would check off the pet fields to look and say pets allowed, and then look, then you'll have to look one by one and look what they're checked, what people have. And I would say just use caution with pets, because not everybody does their due diligence and looks at what the HOA fees, what the HOA docs say. So you may have to follow up with a phone call or look through the docs yourself to see whether or not pets are allowed. The last thing you want to do is send your client a property they fall in love with and find out that their pet can't come. That would not bode well. So that gives you an option. Or you could always pick up the ones that don't have any restrictions, and then you don't really have to worry about it. And again, HOA fees, again, is determined by what the agent puts in there. So always just kind of use caution and double check information that people have put in, because sometimes HOA fees are hard to pin down sometimes. I used to live in a community. We only had one fee. It was every month. It was the same fee. And if I pulled up that community and looked at the HOA fees, I sometimes would see 4 or 5 different numbers, because somebody copied from somebody else who had the wrong number. Somebody had last year's number. Somebody just made up a number, and then other people copied that number. Some people just didn't do their due diligence and look and see what the HOA fees were. Sometimes some of the communities have more complex HOA fees, and it's harder to track it down. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing that. So you can see here I have 8 of them that I've checked off. Okay, I'm going to leave it at 8, and I'm going to just get to the last one. And remember, I said I went through and I picked all the ones that I like. I'm going to approve those. Off they go. And now I have 8 left. I'm going to check those all off, and I'm going to reject them. Boop, now they're gone. Now my bucket's empty. My virtual bucket's empty. Next time anything new comes in, it'll go there. And it'll send me an email saying, hey, so you don't have to worry about checking the system every day. If tomorrow a new property comes on, you'll get an email to your email account telling you, hey, a new property's come on. Go in and take a look at it and see if you want to send it to your client. I'll also show you here on your dashboard. You see I have these set up. These are all my concierge properties. And you see these numbers. You can see I've neglected some of them. Thomas Jefferson's been neglected for a while. There's 20 properties sitting in there that have not gone to him. They just sit there until I go in and look at them. Same thing with these. So once you come into the system, just look for this box that says concierge. Now, this box may be over here or it may be down here. You may have to look around on your screen for it, but it'll say concierge. And you can go through it and you can just click on the one you want to work with, look through those properties right off the bat here, check off the ones you want to send to them. Very simply, without having to go through too much trouble, hit approve selected, and then check all, and then reject the rest. And now you can see when I come back over here, Thomas Jefferson is no longer on my list because I cleaned them out. So that's where you can find the concierge mode. When you said, now I can't talk. Once you have the email and you come into the system, just look for the concierge box. Also, it tells you if I've recently used contacts, and there should be one more. Oh, people who recently visited the portal. You can see Tom Cruise went in on 3/4, Betty Boop went in on 3/4, and I went into one on 3/3. So that's how you can kind of keep track of when your client's going in and out. So a couple little key points. I suggest when you first set up your client for an auto email, just a regular auto email, you set them up, you send off the email. I suggest you follow up the next day with them to make sure that they got the email and they opened it and looked at it. Because if it went into their junk or spam email and you don't follow up right away the next day, if you follow up in a week, it'll be buried and they'll never find it. So if you follow up right away and just say, hey, I sent you an email. Did you get it? Did you look at it? And verify that they did. Once you do that, and you'll also be able to see here, if you come into your matrix and you don't see that they visited it, that tells you right there that they did not go into that email. Follow up with them right away and make sure they check their spam or junk folder to make sure they got the correct one. Once you do it the first time, then they're good. You don't have to worry about it. I just say just that initial time to make sure that they're getting the emails. I'm going to now show you on the client side what the client sees and what the client gets. So you can kind of have an idea of how it's going to look from the client side of things. But before I go there, let me just look real quick and see if there's any chat questions covering the concierge or... So somebody's asking, does this mean they have one client in a system or two clients? When you set it up with the two names in one email, it's in there as one contact, but it's emailing both clients at the same time. That's how it's doing it. Let me open my chat box up because there's some bigger. Okay. So somebody said, my concern is that the client receives when you send the auto email, the introduction email, and what they have to do to activate the email. Can you talk about what the customer has to do? Perfect segue. So I'm going to do that right now, Paul. We're going to go into that. When search buttons for these properties, can you mention how to exclude? Oh, somebody's reminding me how to do it over 55. That's a great question as well. First I'll do the over 55 communities real quick for you, and then we'll go into the client side to see how that works. So these are great questions. See, I cover this so much, sometimes you just forget a different scenario. So I'm going to go back under residential. And for those of you who understand over 55, that's great. I'll just explain for the newbies that might not know. We a lot of times refer to these as over 55 communities. You have to be 55 plus to live in them. Most communities have an 80-20 rule where 80% of the people are over 55, but they have to allow 20% under. That gets a little tricky when you're searching. You don't want to worry about that. So we added a field down here called housing for older persons. Fair Housing says we're not supposed to call them over 55. I find housing for older persons a little bit more sensitive than over 55. I'd rather be over 55 than an older person. But that's what Fair Housing tells us. So we had to make the field called housing for older persons. Sometimes you'll see people will put it in their remarks that this is an over 55 community. We allow them to say that it's fine. So let's say, for instance, you have a client that's, we'll say a single family home, or actually let's say a villa attached, because we may get more there. They're looking for a villa attached in a community. Let's say in Naples. We'll go through a real quick scenario. Naples, and We're not going to even put a price in. They want at least 2 bedrooms or more. And we'll just check off 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. Okay. So we have 200 or 361. Now let's say in this particular instance, your client was looking very specifically for an over 55 community. They want to live in that type of community. Okay, so they're over 55. This is what they're looking for. So you come to this field that says housing for older persons and you say yes. So now it's given me only the properties that are in the over 55 community. And see that there's only 5. Okay, so I'm going to hit results. I'm going to hit save, new auto email. I'll attach that to Liz and Craig Mack, and off it goes. So now anytime anything comes up that's in an over 55 community, they get it. Oh, I forgot. Look at that. It's telling me auto email subject line. So I'm going to say 55 plus communities. Okay, so we're going to send that off now. Now, let's look at another scenario. Residential. I'm going to say the same thing. Villa attached, 3 bedrooms or more. And we're going to take off 4. I'm going to take off 4 and make it 2. 2 or 3 bedrooms, either one. And we're going to say in Naples as well. And now in this particular case, my client is not over 55. So technically, you don't want to get into the whole finding out how many people are living there and all that. You just want to be able to send them properties that don't require them to be over 55. So in this case, you're going to check off no. And by doing that, I have 356 properties that is not in a housing for older persons community, and they can go. And now maybe I want to narrow it down a little bit more by price range. Let's say 300 to 500, or maybe let's say 300 to 400. We'll keep it a little bit lower. We have 51, and let's say garage. Let's say at least a 1-car garage, or let's try a 2-car garage. That may give us more. Okay, so now we're down to 25. Again, once I have that, I can then go off and send these to my client. Save, new auto email. Let's pick somebody else this time. Mary Jane Lemon. And then save. So those properties all went off. Oh, again, I forgot. And I'm just going to say communities for you. So any type of criteria that you can narrow down, you can do for an auto email. My best advice is get a checklist together of some specific questions. What do they want, a single family home or a condo? Do they want the first floor? Do they want an elevator? Do they want a community pool or a private pool versus do they have any pets? Do they want golf? These are all significant questions that affect the price, because the more you can narrow things down like that for them, the better off you can search and not send them too much stuff that they really can't look through. I personally set myself up one time to do my own search when I was looking for a property, and I started auto emailing, and before I knew it, I had like 150 properties in my portal, and I was like, oh, this is too many. So I can understand how people can get overloaded, because after a while you're like, did I look at that? Did I not look at that? So I can see how people can get overloaded. So the more specific you can be with them, the better off you can be. Also, it's very helpful as you're setting up the search, watching the results at the bottom, because then you may have to come back and have a conversation with them that they need to increase their price, or they may have to give up one of their amenities or something to that effect to fit what they really want. And that's where you can have the actual conversation with them. So that makes it nice like that. So I'm going to move on now to showing you what the client looks like, gets in their email. And then also I'm going to show you how you as the agent can see what the client sees without, because obviously you can't get into their email, but there's another way you can actually view what they're viewing at the same time. So I'm going to go over here to my Gmail account, the one that I set up for this. And you're going to see here that I have it set up for some of these emails. Let me find the one that we just did this morning. This is the one we did first. Remember Pelican Bay single family homes? I set that up first. So I'm going to click that one, and it tells you this comes from me. So the only way people can get set up in their One Home portal is via an agent. An agent has to send them the email. That's the only way they can access the portal. They can't get in there by Googling One Home. It won't let them in. It's strictly a way for agents and clients to communicate efficiently with each other. They recently updated this. I think it's been about 2 years now, that they updated this portal to look very similar to what the clients experience over on the other big portals like Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin. They made the look and feel similar so that the client has the same type of experience. Instead of before, it was so different. Sometimes the clients had a hard time adjusting from what they were seeing on the bigger portals out there in the public side versus what you sent them. So they're trying to make things more cohesive and easier for the client, but keeping you connected. So this was the original email that went to them. This was the welcome email. I've created a new search, blah, 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 blah. They click right here on the view properties, and it takes them over into their One Home portal. Now, when they go into their One Home portal, they can look through any of these properties simply by clicking on the picture or clicking down here. Any of these items will bring up the property for them to look at. They can go here and scroll through the pictures. It tells you the previous price. Scrolling down, bedrooms, bathroom size, days on the market, or days on One Home, not necessarily the market. Single family, it gives you all the details down in here. They have to click, as you see these little down arrows, to get some more details. They can click here. They see the interior features, the appliances, the lot features, the exterior features, all of those great details. Building design comes in here. Homeowner association, so you can see here it's showing them the annual fees. Okay. So it's showing, actually, this one's actually picking up the different fees and it's giving the annual number. So that's breaking it down for them. It's including the amenities here and what's included. And then other features like the financing, if there's a spa or a pool. This probably is checked wrong because that should probably be on the amenities on somebody, but they probably put it as it should be under community spa, and somebody probably checked private spa by mistake. The tax information is in here, the location. And then down here, this is something fairly new, but it gives what type of internet services are in that area where that community is. This can be helpful if you have a client who works from home and needs the faster speeds. So you can kind of see what options they have. Fixed wireless, this one's a cable service, so they get better bandwidth with the cable versus the fixed wireless, which gets less, or fiber optics, which gets more. So that's helpful on the clients that internet's very particular for. Another feature in here, when we scroll back up to the top, you have these different tabs. So you have overview, property details, you have schools. It'll talk about the different schools nearby, and it has a rating for schools from a particular program. It's provided by Live by School Boundaries, and all that is pulled separately. So you don't have to worry about providing that for them. It's given to them. And then the price and tax history, it just takes them right to the bottom and shows them all that. So I'm going to go back here to overview. When they hit contact agent here, it contacts you because you're the one who set this up with them. So they could only connect with you. Okay. What's nice in here, and this isn't going to work really well because this is a fairly new property. When I pull up the photos, again, this is a really nice space. You'll see a tab up here that says Reimagine Space. So let's say the property that you sent them isn't their taste or style. They can hit this little tab up here at the top and reimagine the space. So I have to pick the room. Let's say this room here. And so it's going to look through that photo, that one photo that I picked, and you can go down here and let's say their view is more, let's say industrial. So if you change it to industrial, it's going to change the view of the room more industrial looking. Give it a second. You can see how it changed the coloring in the room and changed some of the stuff. Let's say it's more coastal. They're more coastal. So the client can do this all on their own from their portal. You may show them this. See, they did some updates here and it does look more coastal. They have different scenarios they can pick from. And again, you can pick different rooms, and it's just giving them different ideas. It's just a new piece that's added in here. I find this piece really helpful if you were an agent sitting at an open house, and let's say the property, you have pictures and the rooms are all empty. You could use this at the open house to show people what the rooms could look like. It gives you some options in there. Eventually, you'll be able to pull it up in the listing. They just haven't gotten there on the MLS side of things. It's only in the on the One Home portal right now, but eventually it'll get to the agent side as well. So yes, a client can do all these different things. We're going to close out the photos. And it's going to bring us back to all the listings. They can go through all the listings that are here on the page for them. What they cannot do is they won't let them hit the heart because they're new to One Home. So it says sign into your One Home account, or if you're new, sign in and create a login. If they get this, they have to go up at the top. I already have an account, so it's not going to make me do it. But they go up to the top and they create an account. Only ask them for two things: their email address and a password. They make the password, they put in their email address, and boom, once they do that, they're now connected directly to you. They can do a lot more things in here. They can favor things, they can dislike things, they can create a new search on their own in here. Okay, if they create a new search, it's limited to what they can search by. Home types, they have these options more. They have bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. They can't get into all the details that you can get into. They have just a few more, but it gives them a few more. It makes them feel like they can, sort of like they can do on some of the other big portals, do their own searching as well. What's nice is when they do their own searching, it's dropping everything back in here to their One Home portal, and you eventually, as the agent side of things, can see it as well. So it kind of gives you a little upper hand. If they're over here on one of the big portals, without naming names, and doing searching, and let's say they told you their price range was up to $750, and they're over here in this other portal searching up to $800, you would never know. But if they come in here and create their own search and put it up to 800, when you come in to look from your side of things, you'll see that they're now searching, and you can have a conversation with them. Oh, did you up your price range? I didn't know that. Let's change my searches as well. So you can do those kind of things. So this is the welcome one that we saw. I'm going to go back in here to my email. Some of these, I think, are all, it just says I've created search. So these are all brand new ones. I'm trying to find one that found oh, this is the one. Okay, I set a search up. Okay, this is the reoccurring email. So it says, I've set a search up based on what you told me about. We'll be notified when properties that match the search criteria are listed and listings already in the search are modified. So if there's a price change or a status change. And then it tells them, oh, look, I found one property that's been new or updated. And it's given them a little brief thing right here. So they can click right here to see that property itself because they have properties in the portal. They can click here to see that one property, or they can click here to see all properties. So you can see this was a new listing that came on and it sent the client an email. I can go right here and it'll just show me that one property. And they don't have to dig through, let's say you sent them 20 so far. They won't have to dig through all 20. They can just look at the one property right here. Versus if they click on view all properties, it's going to take them into their portal and it's going to show them all the properties they have in here. Now, remember I said if you have more than one email, more than one search set up, like the one for the elevator and the first floor, it's all being dropped all in here. It won't matter once they get in here. They'll see both the ones that are on the first floor and the one that has the elevator. They'll be able to see everything all in one place. It's not like they'll get two separate emails. They'll get an email that says, what did I say? I said property homes with elevator versus homes with on the first floor. That's the only difference. It'll be what's in the subject line. So that will differentiate for them. But otherwise, when they go into the portal itself, they'll see everything all in one search. So that's what it looks like from the client side. Obviously, you as a agent can't do that. Oh, let's talk about this one little piece really quickly. You'll see up here at the top, there's an unsubscribe button, and down here, there's an unsubscribe button. I say in that first conversation you have with your client, you tell them, look, I'm going to set you up with this email, this auto email. If you change your mind and you don't want to do this anymore, please just let me know. I will turn it off. Please do not unsubscribe, because here's what happens sometimes, and you may run into it from the other side of things. Let's say you start working with a client, you're sending them emails, and they're not getting the emails. Perhaps they were working with another agent and it could have been a year or 2 years ago, and they decided they didn't want it anymore and they just went in and hit unsubscribe. When that client unsubscribed, they unsubscribe from the system, and it won't even let your emails get to them. So then there's a whole thing. When that happens, you have to contact us and we'll help you tell you what you have to do and kind of get things back on track again. So try and explain to them, don't hit unsubscribe. It just causes all kinds of trouble. I can turn it off. I can shut it off for you when the time comes. Just let me know. And it's very easy to do that from within Matrix. We can go in and disable and enable searches. I'll save that for the end, because if you're not going to remember how to do that, and if we run into it again, you can always call and we can walk you through how to enable or disable a search very easily. Okay, I'm going to close up my emails real quick now and close up the One Home portal. So now I'm an agent and I've sent off these emails to clients. So I want to see some things where I can see things in the Matrix system. I want to show you real quick here. When I go up to my name, I'm in the classic mode, it's called. If I click over here, I can say go to the new dashboard. What's nice about the new dashboard, it keeps all my portal stuff over here on the right hand side. So I can see Liz and Craig visited their portal today as soon as I come in. Mary Jane visited. Now, if they went in and they hearted something, put a little heart by it, it'll tell you that they like something. So it kind of gives you all the information that your clients are doing while they're in here. So that's kind of nice that it's all right here set up like this in the new dashboard. The new dashboard is a little different, and sometimes I will start out in the new dashboard. I'll flip back to the old one because I like familiarity too. I can close this up if I'm done with it for the day. I can open back up at any time. If I want to go back to my classic dashboard, I simply go back to my name and check it off, and it takes me back to my old dashboard. So you have the options of going back and forth. Eventually, at some point in time, we haven't determined yet, maybe next year, maybe the end of this year, we're going to force everybody over to the new dashboard, but we haven't decided yet when we're doing that, just so that you're aware. Now, let's say you sent an email to your client and they call you and you want to kind of follow along with what they're looking at on the screen. However, when you do it from here, when you go into, let's say, auto email, and let's say Tom Cruise called me about the condos on the first floor. When I click on this, I can see the results right here, but I see it in the agent format, right? This is my agent format. And if I want to schedule showings, I could do all that. But that's not helpful if you're trying to help the client look through them and you want to see exactly what they're seeing. So the best advice I can tell you is go back here to your dashboard where we log into the MLS. You see you have all these different icons here. We're going to go down here and you'll see this box down here that says One Home Agent Portal. What this allows you to do is to go into their portal, but from your side of things. So you're not going into their actual emails, but you're going into their portal. So I'll show you. When I click on One Home Agent Portal, now if you don't have any clients set up and you haven't sent them anything, you won't have anything in here. I have all this stuff set up, so obviously it works great for me. You can see here, I have Liz and Craig Mack. You have Mary Jane and Mike that I just set up this morning. And I have Tom Cruise. I can preview any of these accounts at any time. So let's preview Tom Cruise. When I hit preview, look at that. I'm in the One Home portal of Tom Cruise. So I can look through. So if he's saying, okay, The one that's 169,000, I can find it right away. I can open it just like he's looking at it. And I can go through it picture by picture if I want to with them at the same time while they're in it and not interrupting what they're doing, but seeing the same thing. It's very, very helpful from your side of things to see things the same way. It makes things go a lot smoother and easier. So just always remember that. If you can't remember, you can always call and we'll remind you. It's right down here in your dashboard, in your neighbor dashboard, the One Home portal. And that allows you to go through, and like I said, I can go through any of my clients. Let me just get back to One Home. I can look at any of my clients that I have set up already and look at any of those portals. It'll let me go right into them. And you'll find this very, very helpful. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time. Does anybody, let me look at the questions real quick, see if there's anything else. We did the over 55. Okay, so somebody's asking, how do you set up an auto email for a single family with no HOA? I'll show you that. Somebody says, I do not have concierge on my dashboard. I just have hot sheets. I'll show you where the concierge, well, you won't have concierge. Okay, that's a great point. You won't see concierge on your dashboard if you don't have any concierge emails already set up. So, but I'll show you where you can find them if you did set them up and it's just not there. So somebody's asking about a criteria being 10 feet above sea level in Old Naples. We don't have that level of specific data in our MLS, especially when you get into sea level or uplands, lowlands. We don't capture that. And it's been discussed a few times at the MLS committee. The issue we have is if the information is too hard for an agent to find when they're inputting a listing, they're not going to put it in correctly. They're just going to put in whatever they can find first, and it's going to be bad data. And we'd rather not have bad data. We'd rather just not have that type of data in there, or it may also be a liability if the wrong information is put in. So we don't have that kind of information in. I will show you how you can check flood zones though real quick before we go. Somebody asked, what is the setup process for the customers when they receive the auto email? The only thing they have to do is click on the email that you sent them and click into their portal. Once they do that, that keeps them in contact with you. Now, if you sent them listings and they viewed it, let's say this week and next week, but then they don't view it for a little bit, the system will it'll continue sending them auto emails until after 60 days, if after 60 days your client did not go and look at that email, did not open it, then it'll notify you that your client hasn't looked at it. And that's a reminder for you to talk to the client to see what's going on. I think after 90 days, it automatically will disable the search. It won't delete the search. It'll disable the search instead of continuing sending it on to the client. I think that's pretty much it. Let me do the real quick one, the auto email with a single family with no HOA fees, because we did how to do HOA fees. So I'll do real quick how to do one with no HOA fee. So I'm going to do search residential. They want a single family home. Let's do Estero, because I know Estero has a lot of, or let's do Bonita. They have both communities and non-communities. Because even though so then the question to the client becomes, no HOA fees, or do they want to live in a community? Because no HOA fees, it could be just a house on a street that's not in a community, or they want to live in a community that has no HOA fees. So that's where it gets tricky. So we're going to do no HOA fees first. So I did Bonita Springs, and let's say go down here to, where is it? Total annual reoccurring fees. And in this case, I'm going to say 0. Okay, so I want homes that are in Bonita Springs that have no HOA fees at all. That'd be 192. But they want to live in a community. So that's where it gets a little tricky. You may have to at least check off like one type of amenity. Maybe a community pool, or maybe they want it to be gated. Oh, That would be under community type. So let's say gated, community type. That's where you would add the field community type, gated. So we're looking for gated communities that have no HOA fees. There's two. Okay, so let's pull these two up and look and see. So this one's on Dean Street. And I would say that's really probably not in a gated community, but maybe it has its own little gate to the property because it's kind of set back. So maybe in that respect it's gated. Or, oh yes, you look at that. We can see the gate right there. See? So yes, that's gated it to, so to speak, but it's not in a gated community. So that's where that. So that this in this particular case, I might want to use the concierge mode so I can look through the listings and say, I don't know if my client will go for that, but maybe I want to send that off to them. Maybe I don't. And I can make that decision. And then this one, same thing. Look, you can see the gates right in the front. So apparently there aren't any gated communities in Bonita Springs that have no HOA fees, if that makes sense. It's a hard press. So maybe instead of doing 0, let's do single family homes. Let's do Bonita Springs again. And instead of 0, we can say maybe they're willing to spend $100 a month on HOA fees if they get something for that, is much like a gate or a clubhouse or something. So let's say $100 a month. So that's $1,200 annually or less. Let's see what that gets us. That gets us $200. Okay, and then again, I would add in community type, maybe gated, so that we can narrow it down that way. So now we have 3. Okay, maybe they don't have a gate, but maybe they have a community pool. So we'll go down to amenities. I'm sorry, I usually keep these in alphabetical order to make it easier for myself to find, but I forgot to put them in order before this class started. So now I'm scrolling up and down. So we want a community pool. So we can go here and let's see what we have now. We only have 1. So 1 is in a community that has a community pool and the fees are only $100 a month. Again, check it like this way and go here, and it looks like it's in Imperial Harbor. That's where this property is located. So that should answer that question, I think. Let me just double check the chat and see if I'm missing anything. No. A couple other little things. I'll show you real quick if the client calls you and says, oh, I want to stop that auto email for the time being, especially now that we're going out of season. Sometimes people may stop looking for the time being. So anytime the client contacts you, so you will go down here to auto email, under My Matrix, auto email. And again, this is something very simple that if you forget how to do it, you can quickly call us and we can walk you through it right on the phone. And let's say this condo on the first floor. See these ones with circles that are open with white? Those are the ones that I have set up as a concierge. The ones with the green circle with the check mark, those are just the regular auto emails. So let's pick the Pelican Bay one that I set up this morning. And let's say the client is leaving town for a while and they don't want to look anymore. I can go over here to settings and I see everything I have set here and I have it enabled. See right down here under settings, enabled. You can go in and delete the search completely. The problem with deleting the search completely is 9 times out of 10, the person will call you like 2 weeks later and say, oh, never mind, we changed our mind. Can you start that back up? And you just deleted all your criteria. And now you have to start all over again. By disabling it, what it does is it stops the emails going to the client, but it saves the criteria. I have all my criteria still right here. So simply by going disable, it's not sending them anything, and I hit save. Okay, now see how it made a red check mark with the exclamation? That's how I know that my client is not receiving that auto email anymore. I stopped it for the time being. If they call me in 2 weeks, I can do the same thing. I can go down to auto email. I can find Tom Cruise, the Pelican Bay one. I can go to settings And I can say, okay, so they're looking for this pending close, active in Pelican Bay. I want to enable it now. And once I enable it, it starts right back up. So that's how easily you can turn them on and turn them off. Okay? I'm going to go back here to the dashboard. What about if you set them all up and they change their mind about the price? Let's use that as an example. So again, you can go to contacts. And let's say, which one has auto email set up? I don't want to use Tom Cruise again. We'll use Thomas Jefferson. So he has 2 auto emails set up. We can go to the auto email tab right here. And let's say he wanted to up the price. So if I click on over 55 communities, I have these little tabs here. Settings, that's where I enable or disable. But what I'm talking about is I want to change the criteria. I want to change the price range. So I would click on the criteria button as opposed to the settings button. And you can see right here, I have 900,000 to 1 million. Let's say they want to take it up to 1.5 million. I just update the price and you'll see it found 17 more properties by upping it by that 500,000. And I just have to make sure I just hit the save button at the bottom and then save again. So you have to hit save twice. Once you do that, it'll this one's a concierge, so I'd have to go through these. But once you do that, it'll update the price and it'll always look at that point up to the higher price or the lower price, whatever you reset it to. Again, that's a really simple thing that if you get stuck and don't remember how to do it, if you could do a quick phone call or shoot us an email, we can even send you the steps in an email to how to do it. It's very simple and very easy. Okay, so it looks like our time is up here. I did record this. We'll take us a day or two to clean it up, and then we will email it out to everybody because you're all registered for the class. So we have your auto emails. Hopefully the takeaway is you learned something. You know the difference now between auto email and concierge. Most people don't. That's a 1-up on you. And like I said, just the best advice I can give you after this class, because it's a lot of information, is to take the time and practice. Pretend you have a client like I did sitting in front of you and picking the criteria and send it to an email address and just see what it looks like. If you're going to do that, set up with a different email. Don't use the email that you have set up in Matrix, your MLS email, because if you try to use your MLS email and you're trying to act yourself as a client, the system will sometimes get a little confused. It can't figure out, are you a client or are you an agent? Which one are you? Just make up a brand new, a new Gmail account, or most of us nowadays have a good account and a spam account that we use. I send all my emails that I know are going to get spam over here. Do it that way, so that way you can go in and look at it from the client side as well. The more you practice, the easier this gets. And that way, when the client is actually sitting in front of you, you're not panicking trying to figure it all out at one time. That's my best advice to tell you how to do this. Okay, I think we're good.